Has your child ever done something with, let's say, hand over hand or some type of support, and then you ask them to do it on their own and they can't do it? I've got some insight for you. Today we are doing something so fun. Book club! How many autism books are on your to-read list? Seriously, I know my list used to be really long. These book club videos are all about helping you out. You vote on what book I read the book, and then I summarize it for you. It's fun! I love it! I want you to have the best information to make good decisions for your child. How can you have a say in what book I summarize? Join my email list. There's a link below. They get to vote every month on what book would be most helpful to have a summary and discussion about. So join us. There's a link below. Join my email list. And if you like these types of videos, please let me know in the comments. Also, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for the best science-based information about autism. Thank you for being here. And now, without further ado, this month's book club is Ito in Autismland. Let's get into this book. Great book. I have been following Ito, oh goodness, probably for 6, 8 years, something like that. He is a great blogger. I love his website. I share it with those who are on my email list. So this book I'm so excited to get into today. Okay, so this is that pivotal point of, wait, my child can do something when there's support, but can they really do it? All right, let me give you some insight here. So this is from the parent. When my husband, a scientist, came home, I was excited. He understands, I exclaimed. I told him what had happened. I remember my husband's skeptical face. He asked the questions we had been taught by the professionals. What happens if no one touched him? Why would he be able to do something with support that he can't do alone? Do you think you might have been inadvertently prompting or manipulating him? She goes on to say, I don't think so, but I was nervous. Ito and I tried the exercise again without me supporting his arm or touching him, this time with high stakes. This time, his pointing was random. He hit none of the targets. I guess you're right. He doesn't seem to understand. I don't think I was moving him, but maybe I was, the mom confessed. Ito writes that hope slipped away from him at that point, and he died a little inside. I think part of me did, too. That's what the mom wrote. And you might be in that same situation, even right now. I remember doing this with my daughter, thinking, wait, am I somehow, how is she getting this all right? I'm just holding her wrist or holding her elbow. And then eventually I'm just kind of touching her shoulder. How can just something like that be so accurate? And then when you remove all supports, then it's just blah, 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 nothing can happen. So if you're in that situation, please know that it's happened to others, and that's not a dead end, right? Ito went on to write a book and express, so actually 2 books now. So if you're experiencing that with your child, wow, it must be me who's really prompting them to give the right answers. I don't think so. Okay, here is what Ito writes about ABA supervision. This is him writing. In ABA supervision, I had to do drills in front of a supervisor with all my teachers. Then they talk about me in front of me to decide how to improve my performance. It's miserable to be an object of study, especially because they never realized I understood what they were saying. The consequence of testing me in front of people is that I grew embarrassed and ashamed inside. By analyzing me in front of me, usually wrong, I grew resentful. It was so frustrating. I don't like remembering it to tell it right now. It's over for me, thank God, but not for other kids. So I have to share this to help them too. My advice is that it's not important to discuss the child in front of him like he can't understand or has no emotions. Try to imagine what it feels like to be in that situation week after week. How critical is that? How many times do we mistakenly talk in front of our child about them, or the teacher or the therapist is just talking as if the child's not there? It happens so many times. Your child with autism, whether they're speaking or not, understands what's going on around them, and they want to succeed as much as possible. So don't talk about them while they're around. It's really disrespectful. Here's a little insight on stimming. I know that's something that many parents wonder about, and how can I stop it? What's going on? What does that mean? And Ito writes, before I could communicate, I was often there in body, but not in spirit. I understood most things, but I knew I was trapped and could not show I understood. It forced me to stim more because I had to live inwardly. Even if I thought about interesting ideas, since I couldn't share them, it was pointless. Once I had communication, my world opened. If I had interesting thoughts, I could tell my mom or someone. This made me hopeful and interested in learning more. It's really miserable not to have communication. It's so awful. It's hard to explain to someone who can talk, gesture, or write, because a nonverbal autistic person can't do any of these things at all. It's like living behind a wall of isolation. I survived by stimming, or TV, or hugs from my loved ones. But I became me once I could express my thoughts and connect intellectually with others. It is awful to remember those days, so I'm stopping now. That is extremely powerful insight. All right, now let's jump to age 13, and he's starting to let go of the past. That's the title of this section right here. And I would quote him, "As you read, when I was 12, I still had the resentments of many years of silent frustration brewing in me. Internally, I was struggling to move on emotionally and to feel happier, but I needed to deal with my early misery when my autism stopped me from being educated at the level I needed. As I started seeing success in my daily life and came to analyze my autism more, I began to feel more and more hopeful, and this allowed me to begin to let go of my anger." And that is so true. This happens many times with the different clients I have. As their child starts to flourish, starts to be able to do certain things, to express their intelligence and their competency, there sometimes is this period of anger and frustration that, why did it have to take this long? And all of the hurt that they understood back then, but still couldn't express it. So it's really important to understand that as you do things for your child, and as they start to get better and better, they are going to have to deal with those emotions that they experienced when they were younger, and they had no way of doing anything with it, right? If they're angry, what could they do? How could they express it? If they did certain behaviors, sometimes they got in trouble. So it's really important to have an understanding that as things do get better, sometimes there is this period of having to let go a lot of those emotions. And it's no different than anybody else who has gone through a really frustrating situation. So again, it's about having that understanding of what your child is going through and giving that room to express it and to work through it. And here Ito writes about communication issues. He writes, "I wish I didn't need to rely on others for external support so much, but I do. So I'm resigned to it, but I continue to try to overcome it anyway. It's sort of a curse. because we autistic people require so much support to function and to emerge from our silent prison that many people miss our potential and see only failure and limitations. In so many cases, we are denied even minimal support in communication, and so we can't emerge at all. It's so sad to see my friends be so misunderstood all the time. And that's the truth. So many people with autism, whether they're speaking or not, are misunderstood for a variety of reasons. All right, and now if your child has ever done anything where you're like, why did you do that? This will provide you insight. Okay, I'm gonna read. Overwhelming impulses is what Ito called this. And here we go. I'm a strange mixture. I am smart as a mind and dumb as a body. I can think of insights and my body ignores them. I can write of intelligent ideas and my body acts on non-thinking impulses. It's embarrassing and discouraging, and I hate it. I live in a world of high thoughts and primitive impulses. So I impulsively pour things down the drain or open things I shouldn't because I follow my body in these moments. My mind tries to stop me. It is overpowered. I regret my actions afterwards, but that does not change what I did. It's worse if I'm tired or sick or weak in some way. Now I see it as robbing me of my freedom to live normally. Normal people don't get these horrible moments of compulsion. Sure, they eat too much and things like that, but they don't pour colorful things down the drain and things like that. Today I was on a roll. I poured mouthwash in the sink, shaving lotion on the mirror, and salt scrub in my room. It's hard to say why. I obey, that's all. What I need to do is fight harder. I fight my body non-stop anyway. If I didn't, I'd be getting into even more trouble. So I need to try, especially when the obsessions make me weak. If I can overcome the compulsive behavior, I'd be in a good place. And you might be experiencing this with your child. They might be pouring stuff, making spills, and doing all kinds of things, all these impulsive things, and you're just like, why? He doesn't know why either, but he tries as much as possible not to do them. His mind is like, don't do it, but his body's like, do it. And unfortunately, his body wins out. So in those moments, when you're a parent and you kind of stumble upon this, just try and remember this passage. And hopefully you can just kind of clean it up and move on. Because your child didn't want to do it. You didn't want them to do it. So sometimes just clean it up, keep going. The last passage I'm going to read, I absolutely love this. I know I've been saying that about this book a lot. I really love this book. The last passage is titled, It's Not Polite. And he writes, today I observed that I am hardly the only autistic person who compulsively grabs food. I got together with a group of autistic friends who are all nonverbal and all communicate by typing. How awesome is that? I wish they would write a book on that, like group hangout stuff. How cool would that be, right? I guess sometimes it is necessary to see others do what you do to realize it is really not okay. I tend to grab appetizing things sometimes, even if it is from somebody else's plate. I know it is bad manners. I have been told this many times, but impulsive behavior is not thinking behavior. I saw that my actions are not really acceptable when I saw others do the same. One mom had a drink that looked colorful 2 kids drank from it before she could stop them. The mothers of the drinkers were embarrassed, and I thought, I do that. Then another family arrived, and in seconds, the son grabbed my mom's sandwich and took a bite. Too fast for her to stop him. At first she said, "It's okay," when the embarrassed parents apologized. Then she said, "I actually don't like it when people tell Ito it's okay because it's not. I want them to correct it." The parents agreed and said that people should take more offense now that their son is older. So after that, my mom told the boy that he shouldn't have bitten her sandwich and that it is not okay to take food from her plate. I think people need to do this more. My feeling is that people shouldn't excuse our bad behavior because we are disabled. When we are rude, we need to be told that clearly and not enabled by understanding polite tolerance of something that is not acceptable. My mom wouldn't have let a dog snatch her food, let alone a human. But we tend to be too forgiving if people have autism. Don't worry, we can take the correction. That is absolutely great insight. I really do hope you get this book. I enjoy it. This is a great insight. He is a great writer. He has 2 books, so certainly check out both. And I hope this also provided insight to your child. They're smart, they're capable, they want to be successful, they want to succeed, they want to have fun, but many times there's just certain obstacles. So hopefully you can have a way for them to communicate so that you can tap into the brilliance of who they really are.